today we're just doing a short video that has to do with how we interpret our measures of spread. So our measures of spread, or our measures of variation, would be a synonym for that word, with a range in the interquartile range. Both of these just are answers to the question, how spread out is my data, and also how much variability is in my data. Variability means how much variation, how far we are away from the mean. Remember that the range is the maximum minus the minimum. So it is how far apart my lowest value is from my highest value. How we interpret that then is how spread out all of my data are, or how much variability my data have. The interquartile range now is the interpretation that's a little bit trickier. The interquartile range, remember, is the third quartile minus the first quartile. If you remember how we found quartiles, we first found the median, then we found quartile 1 and quartile 3. What that did was to tell me that half of my data was here, a quarter of my data is there, a quarter of my data is in between quartile 1 and the median, a quarter of my data is between the median and quartile 3, and a quarter of my data is between quartile 3 and the maximum, because quartiles divide our data into 4 equal parts. If we're looking at that, then how much data is in between our quartile 1 and our quartile 3? Well, if there's a quarter here and a quarter here, that's 2 quarters, which is a half. So half of my data, actually the middle half of my data, is in between quartile 1 and quartile 3. So when we need to interpret the interquartile range, what we can say is it's how spread out, or how much variability, how much Q3 varies from quartile 1, so how spread out the middle half of my data are. So how spread out, how much variability is in the middle chunk of my data. The range is how much variability is in all my data. Interquartile range, how much variability is in the middle half of my data.